India and Pakistan. These two nations, neighbors in South Asia, share so much. For centuries they were part of a single land under various empires culminating in British colonial rule. Their histories are deeply intertwined. They share common threads in culture, traditions, languages, and even family ties that often stretch across the border. The year 1947 marked the birth of these two independent nations. It was a moment of freedom from British rule. However, this freedom came at a great cost. The partition of British India also heralded the beginning of a bitter and enduring conflict. This conflict has defined their relationship for more than 75 years. It has led to multiple wars, a constant state of military preparedness, and immeasurable human suffering on both sides. This persistent antagonism has consumed vast national resources, funds that could have been channeled towards development, education and healthcare for their large populations. The shadow of this conflict looms large over the entire South Asian region. Can these two nations, born from the same historical matrix, find a way to coexist peacefully and cooperatively? Is a future of mutual respect and shared prosperity a realistic aspiration, or are they fated to remain locked in perpetual rivalry and suspicion? Seeking a durable peace is therefore not merely a political objective, it is a profound moral imperative. The foundation of their bilateral relationship was thus built upon this traumatic and bloody separation. At the time of the partition in 1947, the numerous princely states of British India were given a choice. They could opt to accede to either India or Pakistan, or in theory, remain independent. The princely state of Jammu and Kashmir, a large territory with a diverse population, a Muslim majority, but ruled by a Hindu Maharaja, Hari Singh, became a critical point of contention. Its strategic location, sharing borders with both newly formed nations as well as China and Afghanistan, made its decision exceptionally significant. The Maharaja initially hesitated, hoping perhaps to carve out an independent future for his state, a delay that proved fateful. In October 1947, tribal Lashkars or militias from Pakistan's northwest frontier province invaded Kashmir, with alleged support from elements within the Pakistani state. Facing this rapidly advancing invasion and the collapse of his state forces, Maharaja Hari Singh made a desperate appeal to India for military assistance. The Indian government, led by Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru, agreed to provide help, but on the crucial condition that Kashmir formally acceded to India. The Maharaja signed the Instrument of Accession, and Indian troops were airlifted into Srinagar to defend the territory. Pakistan immediately contested the legality and legitimacy of this accession. This dispute triggered the First Kashmir War, which raged between India and Pakistan from 1947 to 1948. Beyond the initial conflict over Kashmir in 1947-48, India and Pakistan have engaged in other significant conventional wars, further deepening their animosity. In 1965, another major war erupted, with Kashmir once again being the primary catalyst. The conflict began with Pakistan's Operation Gibraltar, an attempt to infiltrate forces into Indian-administered Kashmir to incite an insurgency against Indian rule. India responded robustly, and the conflict quickly escalated into a full-scale war involving large-scale infantry, armored and air force engagements across the international border. After weeks of intense fighting and significant casualties on both sides, a ceasefire was eventually brokered by the Soviet Union. The 1971 war had a different origin and a more decisive outcome. This conflict was rooted in the political and economic grievances of East Pakistan, now Bangladesh, which was geographically separated from West Pakistan by over 1,000 miles of Indian territory. The Bengali population of East Pakistan felt increasingly marginalized and discriminated against by the dominant West Pakistani establishment. A brutal military crackdown by the Pakistani army on the Bengali nationalist movement led to a massive humanitarian crisis, with millions of refugees fleeing into India. India, after careful preparation, intervened militarily in support of the Bengali Mukti Bahini guerrillas. The war was swift and resulted in a comprehensive Indian victory and the surrender of Pakistani forces in Dhaka, leading to the birth of Bangladesh. Decades of unresolved disputes, repeated wars, and relentless state-sponsored propaganda have created a profound and pervasive chasm of mistrust between India and Pakistan. This mistrust permeates all levels of society, from government institutions and policymakers to ordinary citizens. Each nation tends to view the other with deep suspicion and inherent hostility. Official narratives in both countries frequently portray the other side as the perennial aggressor, deceitful, and untrustworthy. The issue of cross-border militancy has been a persistent and highly contentious source of friction, particularly since the late 1980s. India has consistently accused Pakistan, especially its intelligence agencies, of sponsoring, training, arming, and providing sanctuary to militant groups. These groups, India alleges, carry out terrorist attacks in Indian-administered Kashmir and other parts of India, aiming to destabilize the country and further Pakistan's strategic objectives. Pakistan, while often denying these allegations, sometimes claims to be a victim of terrorism itself, and occasionally levels counter-accusations against India for fomenting instability in its own restive regions, such as Balochistan. Several high-profile incidents of terrorism have significantly hardened public opinion in both countries and repeatedly derailed fragile peace processes. The audacious attack on the Indian parliament in New Delhi in December 2001, which India blamed on Pakistan-based militant groups, brought the two nuclear-armed nations to the very brink of another full-scale war. Similarly, the coordinated terrorist attacks in Mumbai in November 2008, carried out by militants who India proved had originated from Pakistan, caused widespread international condemnation and immense public outrage in India. Such events reinforce negative stereotypes and provide ample ammunition to hardliners on both sides who are fundamentally opposed to any form of peaceful engagement. Despite the overarching narrative of conflict and animosity, the history of India-Pakistan relations is also punctuated by moments of hope and concerted efforts towards peace. Numerous attempts have been made over the decades to resolve outstanding disputes through dialogue and negotiation. Following the 1965 war, the Tashkent Declaration, mediated by the Soviet Union in January 1966, saw both nations agree to renounce force and seek peaceful resolutions. Similarly, the Simla Agreement, signed in July 1972 by Indian Prime Minister Indira Gandhi and Pakistani President Zulfikar Ali Bhutto after the 1971 war, committed both countries to resolve their differences bilaterally and peacefully, respecting the line of control in Kashmir. One of the most symbolically powerful and promising peace initiatives was the Lahore Declaration of February 1999. In a groundbreaking gesture, Indian Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee traveled to the Pakistani city of Lahore via the newly inaugurated Delhi-Lahore bus service. He was received by his Pakistani counterpart, Nawaz Sharif. The two leaders signed a historic declaration committing their nations to intensify efforts to resolve all issues, including the contentious dispute over Jammu and Kashmir. This event generated considerable optimism on both sides of the border and internationally, with many hoping it heralded a genuine breakthrough and a new era of peaceful coexistence. However, these glimmers of hope have often been tragically short-lived, with peace attempts frequently faltering or being deliberately sabotaged. The spirit of the Lahore Declaration was shattered just a few months later by the Kargil War. The first, and arguably most crucial step on the arduous path towards lasting peace between India and Pakistan, is the establishment of a sustained, structured, and unconditional dialogue. This dialogue must be comprehensive, encompassing all outstanding issues, from territorial disputes like Kashmir and Siachen, to water sharing, trade, and terrorism concerns. It needs to involve not just political leaders and diplomats but also military officials to address security concerns directly. Consistent and uninterrupted engagement, even during periods of heightened tension, is absolutely essential to build mutual understanding and gradually find common ground. Alongside formal diplomatic channels, back-channel diplomacy can play an exceptionally vital role. These are informal, discreet discussions held away from the glare of public scrutiny and media attention. Such channels allow for more frank, exploratory conversations where creative solutions and compromises can be discussed without immediate political repercussions. Confidence-building measures, or CBMs, are also indispensable tools in this process. These can range from agreements on military de-escalation along the line of control, advance notification of missile tests and military exercises, to the establishment of more liberal visa regimes and increased people-to-people contacts. Small, incremental steps like these can help to gradually reduce the pervasive mistrust and create a more positive atmosphere. Economic cooperation holds immense, largely untapped, potential to transform the relationship. India and Pakistan are natural trading partners, sharing a long land border, geographical proximity, and significant cultural and linguistic similarities. The media in both India and Pakistan wields considerable influence and therefore bears a profound responsibility in shaping public perceptions. It can choose to act as a force for reconciliation and understanding, or it can exacerbate tensions by fanning the flames of jingoism and hatred. Responsible journalism in this context means scrupulously avoiding sensationalism, refraining from broadcasting unverified propaganda, and striving to present balanced perspectives. Media outlets should actively highlight peace initiatives, positive cross-border stories, and the voices of moderation. Encouraging critical thinking among audiences rather than merely reinforcing entrenched nationalistic stereotypes is paramount. Cross-border media dialogues and collaborative projects could also help to bridge the vast communication gap. Education systems play an equally crucial long-term role in shaping the mindsets of future generations. School textbooks and curricula in both countries have often been criticized for presenting biased, one-sided, and overly nationalistic historical narratives. These narratives can inadvertently perpetuate feelings of animosity and suspicion towards the neighboring country from a very young age. Reforming educational content to offer a more objective, nuanced, and comprehensive understanding of the shared, albeit complex history of the subcontinent is a vital undertaking. Furthermore, promoting student and teacher exchange programs as well as joint academic research projects can help foster empathy, challenge stereotypes, and enable young people to connect on a human level. Ultimately, however, achieving a sustainable peace requires unwavering political will and courageous leadership from the highest levels in both New Delhi and Islamabad. The history of India-Pakistan relations is undeniably one marked by deep-seated conflict, recurrent crises, and pervasive mistrust. The path towards a genuine and lasting peace is undoubtedly steep, fraught with challenges, and will require immense patience and perseverance from all stakeholders. Yet, to conclude that peace is an impossible dream is to surrender to a narrative of despair. It would mean ignoring the deep underlying cultural, historical, and linguistic connections that continue to bind the peoples of these two great South Asian nations. A future characterized by peaceful coexistence and mutually beneficial cooperation is not merely a utopian fantasy. It is a pragmatic necessity for the collective well-being and sustained progress of over 1.5 billion people who call this region home. Beyond the often harsh political rhetoric and the weight of historical grievances, there exists a rich and vibrant shared cultural tapestry. The music, the cuisine, the languages spoken, and indeed, the intricate web of family ties frequently transcend the heavily militarized and often impermeable border. Ordinary citizens on both sides of this divide, by and large, share remarkably similar aspirations for their lives. They yearn for security for their families, greater economic opportunities for themselves and their children, access to quality education and health care, and a future free from the constant shadow of war and conflict. These common human desires can serve as a powerful unifying force for peace. The potential benefits that would accrue from a lasting peace are truly immense and transformative. Vast financial and human resources that are currently consumed by massive military expenditure and a state of constant preparedness could be strategically redirected.